Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Day-6. We will start with Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana-Timirandasya Jnana-Shakaya Chakshur-Undritam Yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Tadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurani Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Adhitanam Pavadebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before we start, as usual, we will do a quick recap of yesterday's. So yesterday we learned about Prakriti and three modes of material nature. So what are the three modes? Yeah.
First is goodness, mode of goodness. Second is mode of passion. And third is mode of darkness.
Ignorance. So the three are Sattvagun, Rajagun and Tamagun. And then what we learned, basically there are variety of people, like the faces are not alike, desires are different because of the combination of the three. Similar, what is the analogy we saw? The color. Like RGB or RYB, whatever they call the basic colors, it creates variety. So that way these three mode, because of that, we have variety of people around us. And then we saw, okay, it is forcing us to do some kind of activities. We saw in mode of goodness, it creates happiness and gives knowledge, and people tend to work that way, and that leads them to higher planets. Whereas the mode of passion and ignorance is going to bring them down and it will be binding them. So anyways, finally what we saw, there are three types of karma. What are those? Akarma. So those three, what we discussed is whether it is good karma or bad karma. So even if somebody is in Sattva Gun and if they do good karma, it is going to bind because they have to be coming back to the material world. And then if they do vikarma, then there is no question. It will lead to anyway hellish planet, so the binding will be there. So the only way to get out of this material world is akarma. If everything is done as Krishna center, what is the analogy we saw? Department stores. So everybody should remember that, some analogy, so that you are able to relate. Anytime we get a doubt or we want to explain others, it will be easier if you have this analogies. And then somebody will say, why should we get out of this material world? I am very happy. I will perform pious activities and I will go on taking birth either as a human being or maybe in higher planets. I will try to enjoy. But seemingly it may be enjoying, but there are problems. That is the way we started, right? Who am I? Why am I suffering? This suffering will go on. Suffering externally, somebody may think it is a wealth problem, it is a food problem, but no. The problem is basically what are the 7 types of problem? Anybody can recollect? First 3 kleshas. Adhyatmik, Adibhautik, Adidevik. So these are problems created by body and mind, by other living entities and devtas, which are not in our control. And then another is other four, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. So because of this, it's only and Krishna wants us back, so we have to go back to spiritual world. And then finally, what we learned about Kala. Okay, we perform all these activities, but in the end, we are supposed to remember Krishna, because Krishna said, if you want to come back to my world, you chant my name. And we saw an example of Ajamila. So we should not wait till the end, we should prepare throughout our life so that we are able to take the name of Lord by leaving the body. So today, our topic, practical application. Before we start practical application, we need to know why we need to apply practically. Yesterday we saw one example that it should not be at leap level, we should practice. But even then, now we will say you practice, we give Bhagavad Gita. Some people will say, I don't understand. Even if I read, I don't understand. Somebody will keep the book aside, they will say, I don't have time to read right now. So there will be different level of people. So the example that we can see over here is, like in the cigarette packet, it is said cigarette is injurious to health. But if you go to the person who is smoking, and if you ask him, if he is smoking, and then you are going to ask him, in the box it is written, it is injurious to health. So some will say, I did not read. Some will say, I have read, but I can't do, I have to smoke, so I am smoking. You know it is injurious to health? Yes, but I want to smoke. So that way, they are not clear. Though they don't want to spoil their health. So if you ask them, are you okay if your health is spoiled? You'll say, no. But it is written here, you will spoil your health. So this kind of question, if you ask this person who is smoking, and clearly it is written, he just doesn't want to abide. So that is the reason we need to understand the practical application rather than just superficially something is written in Bhagavad Gita, we have read, we have not understood, or we don't have time to read. We have to read and then apply practically. So now somebody will say Bhagavad Gita, it is only theoretical knowledge. It's written, too many things are written. Krishna has given theoretical knowledge, but there is nothing practical. How to apply Krishna is not said. But that is wrong understanding. It is a scientific, practical knowledge, Bhagavad Gita. How can we understand? In chapter 7, text 2, if you see this verse, Jnanam teham sa vijnanam idam vakshyami asheshata. So he is saying, I am narrating to you both jnanam and vijnanam. Phenomenal, and Prabhupada has given us the translation, nominal. Basically, it's a theoretical knowledge as well as the practical that can be practiced. By knowing which there shall remain nothing further to be known. This is one more the completeness that we can see about our scriptures. Here Krishna is saying there is nothing apart from this, there is nothing to be known. Whereas if you see in Bible what Son of God, Jesus said, I am giving you this knowledge for you till now. Like this is what I can explain you, because we are not capable of handling everything. But here Krishna is clearly saying, I have given you everything that has to be known. So that is very clear. And now our focus is on the practical knowledge. So Krishna is saying it is practical. It's not only theoretical I have given you. So that is what we need to understand. Jnana, theoretical knowledge, plus he has given us Vijnana, which is realized knowledge. So next we see, so Bhagavad Gita is a spiritual science. It's not just a knowledge book. And the temple, basically the purpose of, if you see our ISKCON, wherever you see there are 7 purposes. So what is one of the purposes? To educate people. So we want to give real education, the spiritual knowledge. So that is the reason here it's written temple an institution of higher education. We just don't want to just see the Lord and go. We want to see why, what we are supposed to do, what is our relationship, everything we need to understand. So that is a spiritual science, spiritual knowledge. Now again Bhagavad Gita, somebody will say, okay, I understand it's practical knowledge, but how practical? It was given 5,000 years ago. How it is applicable now? How do we understand? See now even when a small boy goes to an exam, what happens? The moment he sees the question paper, the first question you see, he'll get a doubt whether I read anything about the subject, and then he will start shivering. The pen will start being moving from his hand, like it will slip from his hand. And then second question, you'll see what is it seems out of syllabus. Syllabus was not given this way. So that way, and third question, you'll feel like running away. Now I'm just done with the exam, I'll just run away. So this situation, if you see, that is what in Bhagavad Gita, first chapter it is explained about Arjuna. What happened? When Arjuna told Krishna to take in between the battlefield, I want to see who are there. Then what Krishna did? He took them in front of his grandfather, teacher, everyone was there. So the moment Arjuna saw them, what happened? Shivering. Gandiva started sleeping. But the same Arjuna actually vowed, I will never throw my Gandiva, keep my Gandiva down. So once what happened, during this Mahabharata, the war itself, we can see the situation that Yudhishthir and Karna was fighting, and Yudhishthir got wounded. So he had to be taken back, and Arjuna started fighting with Karna. After some time, when Yudhishthir was taking rest in his camp, Arjuna came and said, are you okay? Are you alright? Everything is okay? So Yudhishthir was very happy by seeing Arjuna. So he asked, so Karna is killed? Everything is done? He said, no, I just came to see where you are, like I wanted to see how you are. Then Yudhishthir got very angry. What is the use? What an insult for the Kshatriya. You better throw your Gandiva down. Because what is the use of keeping the Gandiva and you are not able to fight the enemies? So immediately Arjuna thought, like, what should I do? Because whoever is supposed to tell him, like, he has to keep his Gandiva down, he has to kill that person. But now his own brother is saying, what is the use of Gandiva? Put it down. Now Arjuna is perplexed what to do. Then Krishna indicates, now you take action, what's supposed to be done. So for a younger brother and elder brother, even if you insult a Kshatriya, it is as good as killing. So Arjuna starts insulting Yudhishthira. That you ran back from the battlefield and then you got wounded, you could not fight. He insults Yudhishthira because he cannot kill his brother, so he wanted to do something as good as kill. Because he had vowed, whoever puts the Gandiva down, he has to behave that way, he has to be killed. Then Arjuna, we know, he is a devotee, he has such a great respect to his elder brother. So what he does, he says sorry. Because he had to insult him, because he wanted to replace that killing thing, so he did that, he fulfilled his vow. Then after that he is saying sorry for what I have done, because he had insulted his brother, he was very regretting. So that happened. Now why we are talking about this incident, the same Arjuna who vowed that he will not keep his Gandiva down, and whoever tells him also he will kill that person, and this incident happened. That Arjuna, now he is telling Krishna, my Gandiva is slipping out of my hands, I cannot kill anybody, I cannot fight this. So that is what he is saying in the end of the chapter 1. So we see the situation, how the boy was frightened in the exam, and here Arjuna. So that kind of situation happens in our life now and then. Many times we are perplexed what to do, we don't know, and then at sometimes We are so emotional, like we feel like our life should be ended. We don't want to continue. So this situation is exactly what Arjuna faced, and Krishna is giving him instruction. And that instruction, what happened in the end? Arjuna said, "I'll do whatever you want." So initially in the first chapter he said, "I'll give my bow away. I'm not going to fight." But in the end he said, Krishna, I surrender to you. Whatever you said, I will do. So we can see how Krishna gave him the real knowledge and he transformed, that he wanted to now work for Krishna. Whatever he says, he wants to do that. So that we can understand that it's not only 5,000 years ago, it's still applicable. Whatever Krishna has said, it is still applicable. So applicable throughout. It is absolute truth given by Krishna. Krishna and Bhagavad Gita is not different. His instructions are same as Krishna, and this is still applicable. Okay, now somebody will say, then in the education, what we have never taught this in the school. The school, what they say, they focus on the matter. And if you see the science, any part, physics starts with definition of matter. Chemistry talks about the chemicals. Biology, the body of all the living entities, but it doesn't touch about the soul. Whatever we discussed in this 6 sessions about ourselves, we are like soul. It was never taught to us. So now we need to understand Bhagavad Gita is the textbook of our life. So when we say textbook of our life, it gives a real thing, what we want to understand and what needs to be done. So it is like a manual. And our very life, if we are not able to understand what we are supposed to do, then we are going to create a mess out of it. Because if you buy a machine and if you have not read the manual, what will happen? You are going to spoil the machine. So similarly, this textbook has been given by Krishna. If you don't read and try to lead the life, it's not going to be possible. It can be done only by reading this Bhagavad Gita. So that is a so-called education is not giving us real knowledge. This is the textbook that we have to read. Now, somebody will say, okay, we understand it's a practical book. It gives everything, but I don't want to read now. Now I am young, I will still enjoy my life. When I go old, then I will read this Bhagavad Gita, because it is for renunciates who has given up the life, like they don't want to do anything, no family life, nothing. They will only read the Bhagavad Gita. It's not for us. It is wrong. Because whom the Bhagavad Gita was spoken to? Arjuna. And he was a householder. He was a responsible householder. He had 4 wives and he had to maintain them. He was a Kshatriya. He had supposed to have a kingdom. So this is a situation Arjuna was in. So we cannot say it is not for a householder or a person who wants to lead a normal life. So it is very much for us that we need to understand Bhagavad Gita. So before starting this practical application today's session, we just learned like why this is required, why this practical application reading is required, and why this application is first of all required. And now we will see what is a practical application, what is the thing that Krishna has told, what is the summary, what he wants us to do. This is called Rahasya of Bhagavad Gita. This verse says exactly what we have to do. While in this situation, Arjuna is told, you fight for me. What is the thing he is saying? Somebody will understand, he was told to fight, so we are also supposed to fight. I will fight against these people who are actually doing illegal things. Those are all things. But finally, what he wanted, the main thing is over here. Manmana bhava madbhakto. He is saying, always think of me, become my devotee. What else? Worship me and offer your homage. We have to pay obeisances to him. We have to respect him. So those are the 3 things he has said clearly. And then thus you will come to me without fail. So that was our goal, right? We wanted to understand who we are, who is Krishna, and then what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to live in this material world and try to see when we are going back. And Krishna is saying, he's given the solution over here. Think of me and worship me and respect me. You are going to come back to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So this is almost the last verse which was spoken by Krishna saying this is what you have to do. So this is clear now. But we say it's practical. Krishna is also saying it is practical. I have given you knowledge practical. But what actually it was done? He just spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So if somebody wants to teach how to make halwa and then I'll go on talking, take rava this much and this and go home and make halwa. Some who are expert in cooks, they may understand. But you say layman, first time he has not even touched the gas, he will not know. So what they have to be doing? Some practical knowledge. Some practical gas has to be kept, ingredients so that they learn. So Krishna has given instructions. Those who are knowledgeable, they can understand. But who else, how actually it has to be practiced? Who showed? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna came himself as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he practiced so that people who are not able to understand the instruction, how to actually apply, he showed them how devotion has to be done. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is called merciful. Because Krishna had given the instruction, totally practical, but how it has to be applied, he personally came and taught how it has to be done. Now, he taught, it was given 500 years ago. I was not there 500 years ago. How am I supposed to do? So his disciple, Rupa Goswami, in the letter of instruction, he gave 64 principles how this devotion, practical life has to be led. 64 principles we cannot discuss one by one. If you want detail, yes, we can go through detail. But if you want to practice immediately, somebody will say, all the 64, how am I going to apply? So Rupa Goswami summarized. Out of the 64, don't worry about all the 64. Just learn about 5 principles. So what are those 5? We will try to understand. Sadhu Sangha, association. He said, this is what is the first principle which is very important. We will talk about that in detail. The second one, chant the holy names of Krishna. Third, read scriptures. We have to do this one, Shravana. And then worshipping deities. That is a fourth limb of devotion. Fifth, he said, residing in holy places. Now we'll try to understand these 5 principles. So the practical application, now we understood how we are trying to apply. Basically, Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said, you always think of me, worship me. How he showed by coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed, it has been actually summarized by Rupa Goswami in this 5 lines, how actually we have to practice. So we will try to discuss about that. So Sadhu Sangha. Somebody will say, who is Sadhu? How do I recognize? In Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni tells Devati's mother. Basically, in this particular chapter, if you go in depth, we'll understand. Devati, though she was a mother, she knew Kapila is an incarnation of Supreme Lord. So she approached him and asked question, how do I go out of this material? How do I get free out of this material attraction? So he started explaining one by one. And then he said, you have to take association. And he defined who is a sadhu. Titikshava karunika surta sarvadehinam ajatta satra vasanta sadhava sadhu bhushana. So what are the symptoms of sadhu? First is tolerant. How to understand tolerant? Tolerant as a tree, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. A tree, even if you cut the branch, it is not going to say, you have cut my branch, I am not going to give. It is still going to give you the fruits. It will give the shade. So whenever we want to understand how tolerant one has to be, as tolerant as a tree. So the sadhu we can see is very tolerant. And then karunika, merciful. Sadhu does not think this person has insulted me, so I have to take revenge. He is always merciful. Whoever does whatever to him, he is always merciful. You cannot see him angry sitting in a corner and saying, this person insulted, I don't want to see his face. That is the second quality. Titishava Karunika, tolerant and merciful. The third one, Surya Sarva Dehinam, is well-wisher. We can see they always think how to do good for others. As we see Srila Prabhupada, at the age of 69, he could have again sat in Vrindavan, but he wanted to do good for others. He wanted to see how to bring everyone back to God. This is the main purpose of a human life. So what he did, he went to US just to teach them about Krishna consciousness. So that is the way a sadhu can be recognized, well-wisher of all. And then Ajata Satravas. So he doesn't have any enemies. If that is the way, he tolerates, merciful, and is always thinking of others. For him, there is no enemy at all. And then peaceful. Peaceful is nature, as we always saw. Like mode of goodness person is always going to be peaceful. Now we are talking about a person who is above mode of goodness. He is going to be peaceful. We cannot see any of the anattas in him. And then all his characteristics are sublime and he abides by the scriptures. So those are the external qualities of a sadhu. What is the internal quality? For Krishna, he is willing to do anything. He doesn't care. He wouldn't say, I am old, if I go now, what will happen? Because his spiritual master said, Srila Prabhupada, at the age of 65, he wanted to go. He didn't think, now I am old, what should I do? Then the Sadhu Sangha. What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says? Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra kahe, Lav Matra Sadhu Sanghe, Sarva Siddhi hai. So even a 1 second of association is going to give the whatever the Sadhu Sangha had to give, the devotion. Somebody will say, how Lav Matra Sadhu Sangha? Lav Matra means it's less than a second. That association is also going to give the devotion to one person. So explain that in the scriptures. We see the story of Narada and the hunter. We see the story of this Mrigari who was a hunter. So Narada was walking by in the jungle, he was walking by and then he saw many animals. It was suffering, it was half killed, it was not totally killed such that it was dead. So he had compassion. Who has done all this? Who has done this half killing? And then when he approached closer, he saw a hunter. What this hunter? Then when he asked this hunter, have you done this kind of situation for these animals? He said, yes. What's wrong? Narada said, all these animals are suffering and you don't have any compassion. He said, what compassion? My father was doing, I am doing the same thing. Why should I get worried about this action? Then Narada explained him, do you know, whatever they are suffering, you are going to go through millions of lives of this suffering. He explained all the problems he is going to go through. So when this hunter came to know about this, he realized what mistake he had done. And then because of the purity the sadhu gave him, it didn't give him much time to think. Who is this sadhu? Why is suddenly telling me against the occupation what my father was doing? Nothing. Because of the purity, he could understand what Narada was saying and then he could relate exactly what is going to happen, what is the goal of life. So what he did, he gave up. And then what he can see the change. Later on, after some years when Narada Muni came again to meet this hunter, now how he is? He has become a devotee. And he was taking the name of the Lord. And when he saw Narada, he He just came to meet him with joy. But what he did, suddenly he stopped and then started walking very carefully. Why? Because there were ants in the way. And such a person who was killing animals, he was just leaving them to suffer. Now he has changed such that he wants to even save an ant. He didn't even want to kill an ant by stamping on it by mistake while meeting his spiritual master. So this change we can see because of the sadhu sangha. So now the question will be, okay, sadhu sangha association has been given by Rupa Goswami, and we understand the importance. How do we apply it? So there are three levels. Srila Prabhupada, serving Srila Prabhupada's mission. So now we have done 5 days course, we are on the 6th day. How many of you can recollect and tell this to some of your friends? Because we have learned something very important in our life. And it is our duty to tell others that such a thing is important, you are wasting your life, you have to focus on your real goal. So that should be our duty, because Srila Prabhupada at such an age he went and then he gave the real knowledge. So this real knowledge should be given to others. One is, okay, when we will be capable, we don't know. At least we can show such a thing is going on. This is what you have to do. Come to the temple, understand what is the real goal. So whatever extent we can, at least share a book with him so that he reads the book. We can see many people life who have changed after reading books. So somehow we have to be part of this mission where we know we are doing. So this is one type of sadhu sangha where we are serving Srila Prabhupada. Second is a very simple one. We can go to the nearest temple at least once a week so that we try to understand more about the scriptures, and then we take the knowledge from devotees by sharing this one scriptures. Third is actual association with the people who are coming to the temple. We can actually be friends with them. The so-called friends in the material world, what will happen? Again, distraction will be there. So respect can be there to everyone. But if you want to imbibe what they are doing, then it is going to divert us from our real goal. Somebody may say, come for party today, come for enjoying. So those things will be there if it's not a sadhu, is not a devotee. But at least a person who wants to lead this kind of devotional life, he will be able to help you. So association with those kind of friends is very much required. So at three different levels, we can follow this sadhu sangha by telling what we have gained, by understanding, getting more knowledge by visiting this temple. As we said, temple is an education center. So getting more education and then associating with like-minded people who wants to take up devotion to reach back to God. So that is the first sadhu sangha. Next we heard about chanting. So chanting, by now we know like what is chanting, or we must have heard something, but we need to focus on two main things. Chanting every syllable is very important, and then hearing every syllable. This completes the full chanting cycle. Every word that we utter has to be heard by us. Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalau Nasyeva Gadir Anyata. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. Apart from this holy name, that is nothing that is going to take us out of this material world. So he has said 3 times, which forces this holy name is only solution. And then there are 2 types. One is we can always chant along with the devotees, and another chant alone. When we chant alone, we have to hear our words. So that is required. But always association will help us. When others chant, we can hear them also. So that is also one type of Sankirtan. We will be able to hear the holy names. The third one is reading scriptures. Scriptures, as you saw, this Bhagavad Gita has a complete knowledge that is going to be given. Like whenever we read, we are going to get answer of all the questions that we have, whatever question we have, and plus why we need to, because if you want to help others or if somebody is trying to distract us, this reading is going to make our foundation strong, so that we are not distracted with any of the materialistic people. So the reading of scriptures is very important from that angle. First of all, it will strengthen our knowledge, and then it is going to give in-depth thing for our devotion. And second, this is also one kind of service that we do for the Lord. So reading scriptures is also a service. So Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, once we start reading, it will help us. So somebody will say, I don't understand. I've tried to read these books, but it is going above my head. I am not able to understand a bit of it. But our duty is to read. By we have this association, it's always going to help. But finally, it is Krishna who is going to make us understand this scripture. So our duty is to read, and automatically Krishna will make us understand all the scriptures. So reading scriptures is the third item. What is the fourth one? Worshipping. Worshipping, somebody will say again, I cannot, I have so much work, I have 24 hours. If the person is single, they will say, I have to go to office, nobody is there. Even Grastha, they'll be busy on the work and other things. I have to take care of my family. But it's a very simple thing. Either you can have Archa Vigraha or you can have even a photo. And what we need to do, whatever activity we do, we have to keep Krishna center. So what you do, whatever you cook, you offer it and then have. Because somebody will say over here, this animal killing, he said, we discussed yesterday also, which is wrong, so we should not be doing. But even plants have life, then what is our answer? We are killing plants to have food. So we offer this to Krishna for his pleasure. And then when you take that whatever sins you have done, it's not a sin because you are doing pleasure for Krishna. It is for his gratification or for his pleasure we are doing that. So that way keeping the photo or actually that is always going to help us. Because otherwise it was told long back, there is one ghost in the house. If we don't keep Archavigra or worship, this ghost is going to haunt us. Do you think if you go to a room and somebody says there is a ghost, will you be able to sit peacefully? No. What is this ghost? What used to be? TV, television. But now there are many ghosts. Everyone's pocket there is a ghost. Mobile phones are there. So to get rid of this haunting of this ghost, this is very much important to have this photo Archavigraha and then keep them as the center. So this is the fourth principle which we can see it is going to help us. And then residing in holy places. So after reading this we'll say, okay, now let's back and go to Vrindavan. And then who are in the world, everyone wants to perform devotion, they will come to Vrindavan and then it will be back, nobody can move also. So that is not the way. Understanding here is, we can make our own house as a holy place. You have this photo and whatever you do, you need to remember that it should remind you Krishna. Suppose somebody is having a computer, whole day he has to work on computer. So what they do, even the screensaver can be Krishna's photo. That way, whatever you can think of, you can make sure that you see that surrounding and then it makes you think of the Lord. Otherwise, that itself is going to create a holy place. Otherwise, we will think only we have to go to Vrindavan. But yes, once in a year, it can be a practice to visit holy places. This particular word or principle is called Dhamvas. That's why it is translated to residing in a holy place, but we can make our residence as a holy place and then visit once in a year or so. We can make a practice the holy place so that we get charged up and then come back and practice devotional service. Now we have seen what are the things to be done practically. What has to be done? 5 principles. We have understood about the 5 principles. But if we take an example of a person who is sick, let us take a diabetes. Person is going to doctor. I am having a high. He might not know that he is having diabetes, but after test he has been concluded he is having diabetes. So the doctor will prescribe, take this insulin, take this medicine, you will be all right. The person goes and he takes insulin and tablet. After a month or 2 he comes. Again the sugar is very high. The doctor is asking whether you have taken the insulin and tablets properly. The person says yes. And what else? What is your diet? He says, I was eating peda every day. So that we can understand how his sugar had gone up. So that means, apart from doing the do's, there are do nots. What should not be done. So we have seen the 5 principles what has to be done. But what should not be done also has to be. Then only this medicine will take effect. So we need to understand what Srila Prabhupada has given us. What not to do. Meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex and gambling. So why these 4 things? It covers everything, all the things that are required. And then we can see how each of this represents one pillar of dharma. Meat eating. If somebody kills and eat, what happens? The mercy, the compassion goes away. Because we can see the tiger. Nobody wants to go near a tiger because they are afraid. It doesn't have any compassion. Whereas anybody wants to go near a cow, they are very comfortable. They can go near the cow, pat it. So we can see how the behavior or the nature of the tiger. So that is the way the nature will happen. If somebody is into meat eating, this kind of qualities is going to get into him. So he will go into the mode of ignorance and he will not have any mercy. So what we saw during the 3 modes of material nature, we saw this goodness, passion, ignorance. We need to be mode of goodness and try to go above that. So meeting is not going to take us to mode of goodness. It's going to pull us down to ignorance. That is the reason it should be not done. So that is one pillar, mercy of dharma. Second pillar, intoxication. Intoxication, avoiding or totally prohibiting the intoxication helps us to do austerity. Somebody will say, what is the relationship? We can see if a person is intoxicated, then he will lose a determination. Whatever we heard, whatever we had the resolution, we want to do this. Now we have seen these 4 principles which we want to follow. If the intoxication is there, immediately it is going to take us away from the determination. So finally there won't be any austerity. So that is very much important. New Year resolution. Everyone wants to take New Year resolution. And what they do, they go to party. And then they'll have alcohol. And then there they will take New Year resolution. Then what will happen? The moment next day they will forget. There is no determination. Because they were intoxicated, said something, and now they are forgotten. So that is the reason intoxication is going to defeat this austerity. Third, illicit sex, the purity. So today, if you see in the today's world, all the young generation, there is so much distraction. Now we discussed about even the demigods and gods, but in Bombay, if you see the Navratri, how it is celebrated, it is taken just as an opportunity for this young people to get together. So they don't even respect for Durga Devi. What to speak of worshipping? So as we understand the complete this one about the supreme person demigod, we know how to respect and what is the role of each and every demigod here. And the amount of disrespect of the things that is going on, we can see. Even so, those are the things we need to be careful about. And the fourth one, gambling, that defeats the truthfulness. Because in gambling, we are not true to ourselves. We don't know what is happening and we just tell lies in that situation. So wherever we are in this situation, it is going to take us away from the fourth pillar, that is truthfulness. So unless we follow these four principles, it's going to, or avoid, do not do these things, these do nots, it's not going to help us follow the five principles given by Rupa Goswami. So with this, we'll be ending our session and we will chant one round together. Before that, I will request or say if there is any questions on this, whatever we have learned in 6 sessions or today's discussion, we can discuss. Mike, Prabhuji.
In later of discussion, Rupa Goswami says we can't identify sadhana. So here it is like the qualities are given.
Yeah.
So how it is why it is confusing, like here it is you can identify what these qualities.
In what sense it is written identity? What context we have to see? We cannot identify a sadhu in the sense we should not judge that he is a sadhu, is for just for the sake. I cannot say you are not a devotee because you are so and so. We cannot judge. Identifying is given, the qualities are there, external, internal. So we are given intelligence to identify a sadhu. We cannot judge whether that person doesn't follow. For example, tomorrow we see somebody is doing some activity, we cannot say he is not a sadhu, though he is coming to the temple. So we know what is the category. We need not judge and pass comments. But we know what kind of person he is, so we know whom to avoid association, whom to make friendship. So nobody will say we cannot identify. Identify intelligence is given to us. We can easily discriminate because that is the reason we need the spiritual knowledge. See, when we get material knowledge, we are able to use that knowledge and to perform something. If you go for a job, why we all this schooling education then because we take that and then see how it is going to help us. Similarly, spiritual knowledge, why we have gone through the session to give us the real knowledge, who are we and act accordingly. So that gives us the spiritual knowledge, intelligence will apply on that. So that will help us to identify. So nowhere it should be written you cannot identify. We should not only judge saying that is a non-devotee, is a devotee, that kind of thing we need not do. But for association, Srila Prabhupada has created these temples where we can get association and then people once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says even a person unknowingly has uttered Hare Krishna, he should be considered as a Vaishnava. So they are in the process. But association, you know whom to take because that person already is in the path, is determined. So by associating, I will get the determination, I will get the enthusiasm. So those are the things we associate. Because by ourselves, we may not have determination, enthusiasm. But if we associate with the people who are determined, who are enthusiastic, we will get it. So that is there available. So no other question, I have question. So we have learned these principles. Many people will say, work is worship. So how many of you would like to say work is worship? So we need to understand what type of work. I am a software engineer. I will say I am going to work and it is worship. So we need to see the work done for Krishna. So work is not actually directly a worship. It has to be done in that consciousness. So that is very important. Since that, I would like to take some time. We have, what is the time right now? 8:45. So I'll take 5-10 minutes quickly to go through a session which is talks about the yoga. Yeah,
I have a question.
we'll address that before this. Yeah.
Silly question, but like people like tell that we don't eat meat, we don't eat meat. So they tell that you eat dahi. So in that there is like a lot of bacteria and so they kind of say like you are also eating meat because in dahi there is a lot of bacteria. So I explained to them that is a different part. So like how to convince them that ऐसा नहीं है.
Yeah.
Because like this is silly question. You have also heard about somewhere.
Yeah, so this question, that's the reason we spoke about the meat eating portion and then the plants. When the plants also we kill. So even this small water bacteria which is not visible to our eyes may get killed. While even when you light a gas because of the fire, it gets killed. So that is the reason in the Vedas you do this yajna. For us, the simple way that is given is you offer to Krishna. So in Bhagavatam it is said every living entity is going to persist on other living entity. For it to survive, it has to live on the other entities. So that is the basic principle. Here also we eat plants and fruits, flowers. But Krishna has said, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toya. You offer me fruits, flowers, leaf, water with love. I will accept it. So we are offering. So this dahi, we are not taking our own, we are actually offering it and then we are taking it. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When a person commits suicide, then he becomes a ghost. So what if a person is killed suddenly by someone, murdered? Then what happens to him?
See, everything is as per the destiny, right? Krishna has a plan for everyone. So nothing is going to happen on its own. So a person commits suicide, it need not be him, a ghost. Krishna has some plan for him, and then if he has to suffer in that body, he has to suffer. If the suicide was what is destiny, and he can go to next body, he will. Similarly, the killing also. If the person is killed, he may take a new body, or his destiny will be he has to suffer in the form of ghost. So we need to understand technicalities. Here, like when the moment we talk about killing goes like emotion is one aspect. If you see the technical aspect, what is it? What we have learned in this session. Soul, we are soul. And then we have gross body, subtle body. So when the gross body is there, we are able to see each other. If the subtle body is there, we will not be able to see. And finally the soul, it can go back to Godhead without the subtle body. It goes without the subtle body. So whether a person is going to get a subtle body, gross, everything is same. Do anybody know like if they have done some activities, what is the body they are going to get? No. That Krishna will decide. The Paramatma is watching within our heart. So in the Gita, you will see like many examples Srila Prabhupada has given. It is like two birds within our heart. One is soul, super soul. It is watching. And the super soul will create the list. And then when we leave this body, and it will tell the destiny, what activities we have done. So whether it is getting killed, suicide, those are external. We are able to see. Somebody has died in a crash. Those are just a medium of leaving this body. But after this body, what is going to happen? It will be decided by his activity. Whether he is going to take a ghost body, he will be roaming before getting a gross body. That will be based on the activities he has performed.
And Prabhuji, what is the difference between mind and intelligence and false?
Mind is the one that is going to gather everything. Some people say subconscious, it is there. Mind is the one that collects information. And then sometimes we saw about the previous birth. Why it is that? Because the mind still has those memories. And Krishna gives the remembrance and forgetfulness. So if somebody cannot say, if mind knows everything, why we are not able to remember previous? Because Krishna gives the remembrance and forgetfulness. Suppose somebody was a pig in the previous, and then you say, I forgot. It's better to forget that. So Krishna will take that out. So that is the thing. So now that is the role of mind to correct. Intelligence can just discriminate. Yes, no. So if you are full of material knowledge, the intelligence will be contaminated by the material knowledge. So whatever it says yes, no, it will not be pure. That's why in Bhagavatam, when the description comes about intelligence, initially it talks about material intelligence. That is only one intelligence. But depending on the condition, it may be treated as material or spiritual. So the moment we read scriptures, our intelligence will be purified and we'll be able to distinguish. Because our main principle is always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So always you'll evaluate whether this is going to help me or not. So that is the spiritual real intelligence which is going to help us discriminate. And false ego was given to us, as I earlier told. Brahma, by creating, he gave us ignorance. So the false ego is the one that has been already given, so that to understand, okay, I am this so and so, now I am born here, I am in India. So that is the false ego. But we are trying to see who are you? We are soul. That is the reason we say this is a false ego. The temporariness that we understand. I am so and so. This is my house. This is I want to my relative. Whatever you are relating from your bodily level, that is false ego. So those three things will travel because it has to be there for you to take up another body, and then now you will see yourself in that situation. So those are the subtle body which is not actually seen. Any other question? Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. My question is, I had this conversation about today when a person is from Mayapur, and he told me that in Mayapur there are certain places where people actually eat meat, and I didn't know, so I didn't get into the discussion in detail. He was telling me that even in the Mahabharata and the Vedas, in the scriptures, it is mentioned that during the Ashwamedha Yajna, when Yudhishthira was going to be announced as the king, calves, rather cows, were offered to in the yajna. Was it as a sacrifice or was it as a gift in the Ashwamedha Yajna? I was very confused. I didn't want to get into a discussion with that person because obviously I don't know the credibility of his knowledge. But I wanted to understand if in the during the Ashwamedha Yajna or even the Rajsuya Yajna, when animals were offered, was it as a sacrifice or was it as a gift? No. I just wanted to understand.
Okay. See this entire creation that Lord has done this universe. It is as a mercy, like we desired, so yes. So now He wants us to go back to it. That is the basic principle that we have gathered about this conversation. So whatever He has given, the Vedas, it is to take us back. So each and every living entity, now we have understood. Our intention when we say Srila Prabhupada mission, every entity has to go back to God. That's a main thing. So once we understand that, Vedas, whatever is written in Vedas, it is going to slowly take us back to God, whether it is us or any living entity. So this Ashwamedha Yajna, which is prescribed in Vedas, it cannot be against anybody's good or something. That person will get a higher birth, whether higher birth and then finally back to God. So Vedas actually give us different sections. One is Karma Kanda. You perform these activities, you get this. Then Jnana Kanda comes where we get more knowledge. Then this Upasana, which takes us to back to God. Now this Karma Kanda have many rituals. So this Ashwamedha Yajna also comes. But now we need to be clear, what is the basic principle? Everyone will get a higher birth if we follow the principles. So this Ashwamedha Yajna I discussed a little bit yesterday. When the horse is sacrificed, it will get a higher birth. And then, as per the scriptures, nowhere it can mention about cow or calf because cow is one of the mothers. So sacrificing a cow is never mentioned at all. We can 100% be sure. This other low species like horse or something that can be sacrificed. That too with the proper mantra so that they get a destination. Now the misconception what happened was okay. The as you met a person, sometimes misconception is Veda said you can kill, so you can kill. So that chanting the mantra and what was the purpose to get a higher birth for that living entity is lost. So the same thing happened because of the Vedas, all this misconception, people started animal slaughter as the other thing. Now that is the reason, if you see many incarnation of the Lord, there was Buddha Avatar. What Lord Buddha did when he came over here, he said there is no Vedas. You need not worry about animals. If you feel animals killing is prescribed in Vedas, there is no Vedas. And then he bought this nullism. You meditate on zeroism, there is nothing, and then you be just, so you'll be zeroed out. Now, the main purpose of Lord Buddha was to take them away from animal killing. That was the main principle. But Vedas does not exist is wrong. Vedas are there. But Lord Buddha has to tell that that's the reason. Even whenever we talk about Dashatar, we know Lord Buddha is incarnation, but we don't worship because he said Vedas are not there. So even if Lord comes and says Vedas are not there, we are not going to worship. So that is the main. So many temples, if you go to the south, Sri Sampradaya, you will not see Lord Buddha. 10 incarnation they will say Balarama, Krishna, and then Devi. So they don't want to even to specify Lord Buddha as one. But it is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is given. Lord Buddha will be coming because Bhagavatam was narrated years 5000. So it is said Buddha will come and then he will deliver. So that is the main principle. So whenever such talks happen, we need to be crystal clear on what is the purpose of Vedas. Vedas are to take us back down. So whatever yajna, whatever has been performed, it is for this one. So even the Gurukul system, the main thing that was taught was about the scriptures, how to go. Okay, others were taught for them to live within the material world. But that was some part of it. But main thing, their education was to go back to Godhead. Otherwise, there won't be any difference between the modern education and the Gurukul. The Gurukul had the main. So the entire system, the Vedic system, Sanatana Dharma, was nothing material. It was totally just to be here and go. So whatever we are discussing, not something new. We as an age we have realized this was the main purpose, and we are reading scriptures to understand what is happening. So in Mayapur and all, because of the Kali Yuga, things might happen. So we should not get distracted by that. We should focus on our scriptures, and we said even the previous question, we are doing some kind of activities, but for the pleasure of the Lord, we are trying to maintain the body for the pleasure of the Lord, so that we can serve Him. So the entire thing is Christianized. So when meat eating, we say we are not trying to promote vegetarianism over here. Vegetarian becomes a part of it, but our thing is Krishnatarian. So whatever we do, we offer. Because the moment people will say, can I go to Jain hotel and have, see those things are slightly, if time plays up, if somebody is working 24 hours in the office, it has to be done. So some you can, at least in the mind you can think to the about the Lord. But advisable is whatever you can prepare and then cook and offer, that is the first thing that we need to do. So almost we are running out of time. So any question or just quickly go through the different yogas. Science of yoga and the topmost yoga. So bhakti, whatever we discuss is the topmost yoga. And then Krishna says one must become a yogi. So what yoga? Modern people sometimes they say I also want to do yoga, and then they do some exercises and say they are yoga. But the actual yoga it is explaining it's not just a physical exercise or just to maintain the health for sense gratification or increasing the lifespan. These are not the goals of yoga. Yoga is what actually yoga is union in love between individual and the supreme. So what are we learn? Who are we? Soul, super soul, and the connection. So that is the yoga. So now in this relation, we will try to understand karma yoga. So human beings, and then we have two types: law abiders, law breakers. Law abiders, what they will do? Karma, and abiders vikarma. So we need not talk about them. So now law abiders, they may do karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, bhakti yoga, and then within karma, sakama and nikam. This is technical and just give brief because I said only if you think work is worship, it is not. So the yoga, I'm just trying to give you a brief. So if you just go on working, if I'm IT person, I don't know what is pious, I don't know impious, I'm just going. That is like karmis. It's like a normal, sophisticated animal. So that is where we started. We cannot do without understanding religion or the karma. Nishkarma karma is I don't want any fruits, I am just doing the work. There is no bhakti. I am not trying to offer the fruits to the Lord. I have lost attachment. But that is very difficult situation. Because till now I was doing, and some suddenly you are saying I am detached. Again you get the detachment because there is no attachment to anybody. So that is the reason this bhakti is going to do that attachment towards the Lord. Whatever you are doing, you are doing for the Lord. Anyway, Nishkam Karma is in between. You are doing without detachment. The terminology says work without any desire for fruits, without feeling for proprietorship. But here there is no attachment to the Lord. And then comes, according to Bhagavad Gita, what are the different things? 4 types of yoga. Karma yoga. In that Karma yoga, whenever it talks about, it is process whereby one performs his work for God. So that's why it is said it's not much different. Jnana yoga also, it is for elevation to spiritual, and then cultivation, and finally taking bhakti. Then Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga yoga meditation is clearly explained in the 6th chapter. But Arjuna says it's very difficult to control. That is the reason we have to practice. What is the practice? It is Bhakti Yoga. So, yoga of selfless, ecstatic love of God through transcendental devotion service. So, that is what I wanted to share. Now, before ending our session, now how much time we have? Do you have time to chant one round? Nine. We'll chant one round.
Yes.
So you can distribute for the Prabhujis and one of you can distribute for Matajis. So while the beads are getting distributed, what I want to say is, see, today we have met and this is the last session of today's course. So as a continuation, we can meet on Sundays 11 to 12.